Hi guys, how are you all doing? Welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for being here. In today's video, we are going to deal with my historical romance obsession. Because each year, I go through these eras when I discover a new to me genre and I become completely obsessed with that given genre. And this year, it was historical romance. The year before that, it was romantasy. The year before that, it was literary fiction. The year before that, it was nonfiction. This year, it was historical fiction. And I must say that looking at all my eras so far, it's definitely romantasy and historical romance that I like the most. And it was actually last year when I saw the first time that I have this very weird reading pattern. So I decided to commemorate my romantasy era and my romantasy reading obsession with a tier ranking video where I ranked every single fantasy and romantasy book that I read in 2023, and I decided to do the same for historical romance. So there you go. Here are the 43 different historical romances that I read in 2024. But before we get to the actual tier ranking part in the video, I wanted to share my thoughts with you on historical romances for two reasons. One, I think that this is the best way for you to understand what I like in these books, and if you like the same characters and plot twists and historical settings that I do, that I think that there's a high chance that you will like the same books that I like and I recommend in today's video. And also, I am technically here to apologize to historical romance as a genre, because I was one of those incredibly judgmental readers, and I don't know why. I don't know why, because usually I am not judgmental at all in general, but especially not when it comes to reading. But I have to admit that I was one of those judgmental readers who looked at these beautiful mass market paperback historical romances, and we all know how those covers look like, right? And I thought that, oh my god, like this is basically just smut and erotica, and this is like something that I am not interested in. I'm not going to touch historical romance with a 10-foot pole. And then I read last year Any Duchess Will Do by Tessa Dare. That is the very first historical romance book that I ever read in my life. And oh my god, I fell in love with it. It was so good. It's kind of like in the middle of her Spindle Cove series, and literally that week when I read this book, I read all the other Spindle Cove books that were available to me at the time. That's how obsessed I became with this genre, and I was like, we found something really precious, and I don't have a problem coming here and admitting it in front of the camera and then uploading it onto the internet that I was wrong. I was very judgmental when it comes to the historical romance genre, and I am apologizing for it. And also, thank you, Tessa Dare. Thank you for introducing this beautiful subgenre to me. A couple of weeks ago, I asked myself a question. Zsuzsi, why do you like historical romance so much? And I think that to me it is basically because of two reasons. One, because I love history. I genuinely love history. I've always been a history buff. Even growing up as a kid, history was my favorite subject at school, and I was looking forward to historic classes every single week. I still read about history. I still watch a lot of documentaries that are historical, and in general, I really like historical fiction as well as a genre. So that's definitely one reason. And I think the other reason is because when it comes to historical romance, I think it's far enough removed from my immediate reality, so it is a form of escapism, just like romantasy is. But for example, contemporary romance is not really an escapism for me, because it is just something, it's kind of a genre that reminds me of what is happening in today's world, and sometimes that's what I need, sometimes that's what I crave, but more often I lean towards historical romances as well as romantasy, because I can just suspend my disbelief over whatever is happening in that book, and I can just fully escape from today's world. And while I am incredibly tough on the contemporary romance genre, and I do believe that I am a lot more lenient to forgiveness when it comes to historical romance and romantasy. I still have some expectations, and the books that are 5 stars for me, or I should say the books that are TPR approved or the Petite Reader approved, these are the creme de la creme, the books that are 6 stars out of 5 stars, are definitely the books that have very good historical settings. Now, I'm not saying that I am a stickler for historical accuracy, because I myself do not know all the different historical facts and all the different historical events that took place in that given time period, right? But I do appreciate when authors do their research and they know what they're talking about. And I also like my historical romances to explore the social norms and the different challenges that people faced in that particular historical time period, and this includes, you know, gender roles, the differences in class, and just the different societal expectations. And I also think, and this is what I had to discover for myself, that good historical romances are always character driven. And I know that there are probably a couple of people out there asking the question, really? Because I basically thought that it's just smut in historical setting, and I hear you because I was the same person. But I am here to report that, again, it's not true. Good historical romance is actually character driven, because there is no way that historical settings and historical events and erotica, smut, whatever you want to call them, they're not going to keep you entertained for like 400 pages long. It's just not possible. So the romance and the characters, they have to be perfect. The romance must be fully rounded. The characters must be relatable. You have to understand them. You have to know what are their core beliefs, what are their desires, what are their fears, what are their motivations. Otherwise, the book is a disaster. Now, I admit that historical romance is not a perfect genre, subgenre, whatever you want to call it. Sometimes my favorite authors, like for example Tessa Dare, can pull something in a book and I'm like, oh my god, like this was not nicely done. This was a little bit insensitive. Historical romance sometimes can be a little bit repetitive and boring, I fully admit it. But despite all of this, I think when I objectively look at my reading, I think that this subgenre is the one that I am the most successful with, because most of the time, not all the time, as you will see in today's video, but most of the times, the books that I find are so dear to me and I love them, and this is a genre that is true escapism, and this genre, subgenre, gets my socks off every single time. Based on a little bit of research that I did on the internet, now I know that historical romance is actually a genre slash subgenre that is very much endangered, because publishers do not want to really publish historical romances anymore. I don't want that. I don't want that. I definitely want to be a creator who popularize historical romance on her channel. And if you clicked on this video, then probably you like historical romance as a subgenre, and you are, after all this talking, ready for my recommendations. Now, here are the tiers that we are going to use in today's video, guys, and it was not easy. It was not easy to come up with these tiers, because just like I said, most of the time I really adore these books, and I have not yet, touch wood, I have not yet DNF'd a single historical romance. So the very first tier on the list is TPR approved or the Petite Reader approved, and just like I said, these are the books that are the creme de la creme. When I say that a book is TPR approved, it means something, or at least it's supposed to mean something. It means that God herself could never. The tier below that is Best Thing Since Indoor Plumbing. And I think that this is self-explanatory. I would say that, you know, these are the 5-star books. Books that are amazing. They just don't get the TPR approved badge. Below that will be the books that needed a little bit of extra seasoning. The tier below that is Flame, Not Fire. I feel that these were the books that are a little bit overhyped and they just could not really deliver to me personally. And I also included an I don't remember tier, because there are a couple of books on my list that don't remember. I cannot tell you if they were good or bad because I don't remember. I mean, kind of like they probably were not that good because I don't remember, but I just couldn't do justice to these books, so I decided that I did and I don't remember tier. And then I have a tier that's crickets. These are probably like the 2-star books, and then below that I have a tier recommended to my enemy. These are the books that I would made my enemies to read because they are so bad I can only recommend them to my enemies. So don't ever be my enemy because I will make you sit down and read these books. And that will be like punishment enough. Whatever you did to me, that will be punishment enough. All right, now I am going to set up the system, minimize myself, and then we can start tier ranking. The very first book on my list is Aidan Burke, and this is the last historical romance that I read this year, and I think that this book is going to go into best thing since indoor plumbing. It didn't make it into the TPR approved tier. Again, just like I said, I am super strict when it comes to this tier, but it is definitely like a 5-star book, no questions asked. Next, we have All is Fair in Love and War, and this is kind of like a new type of historical romances. This was released this year in May 2024, and I actually really liked it. This was my first book by Virginia Heath, but probably not the last. Now, I think that this is something that needed a little bit of extra seasoning. When it comes to historical romance, I feel that I still like the older historical romances, you know, written by or like the older generations, and not necessarily the new ones. But because I want to support this subgenre as much as I can, I will try to pick up new release historical romances. And the next one is Ladies Rewrite the Rules, and it was the same. This was released sometime like January, February, I believe. And this was unfortunately a flame, not fire situation to me, because this is the same author who wrote Mr. Malcolm's List. And I actually really like that book, and I also really like that show, movie, whatever it was. So I had a little bit like, you know, high expectations, and this book couldn't live up to it, but it was still nice. And the cover is purple. If you publish a purple book, I'm gonna buy it. And the next books are Tessodare books, and this particular series is the Stud Club. Yeah, that is the name of the series. And before you go there, in your mind, I just want to let you know that in this particular case, the stud refers to an actual horse. Okay, I just wanted to put it out there. And the very first book that I have to rank here is A Lady of Persuasion, and I really like this book. I think it needed a little bit of extra seasoning, but I really like this book in the series. And then the next book is One Night with the Duke. This was so good. This is the first book in the series, and this is going to go best thing since indoor plumbing. This has a trope of marriage of convenience, and that is one of my favorite tropes, especially in historical settings. So you give that to me and I'm a happy girl, okay? The next book is Twice Tempted by a Rogue, and this was a book that was a flame, not fire situation for me. I think that when it comes to this particular series, the Stud Club, this is the one that I like the least. And then the last book, because it was a 4-book series, 3 Nights with a Scoundrel. Oh, I really like this one. I really like this one. I think I'm gonna put this into the best thing since indoor plumbing. I think that's the tier. Yeah, it was so good. And next is the only book that I read from Lisa Kleypas's Headaways series. I know it was one of you who recommended Lisa Kleypas to me, and specifically the Headaways and also the Wallflower series. And when it comes to the Headaways, this is the only book I read. I think this is book number 2, maybe? maybe. Oh my god, I don't know. I'm so bad with this. I never read the books in order. Anyways, and this is the Seduce Me at Sunrise. And I must say, guys, that unfortunately it was a flame, not fire situation to me. I was not so obsessed with this book. I love the main female character in this book, but I didn't really like the male character. But nonetheless, I am continuing with the Hathaway series because the side characters were so good and I cannot wait to get to their stories. So I am continuing with the Hathaways. Just this particular book, which by the way has the highest rating on Goodreads, I think it just didn't really work with me that much. Next on the list is an Eloisa James book, When Beauty Tamed the Beast. And this is going up here, guys. Best thing since Indoor Plumbing, because I freaking adored this book. It was so good. When they said that it's just a Beauty and the Beast retelling, I was like, I need that in my life. Beauty and the Beast retelling in historical setting, in a historical romance setting. Are you kidding? Give it to me. It was so good. If you guys have not read anything by Eloisa James, make this book your first. You're not going to regret it. And the next one is The Raven Prince. And this is also a book that I really liked. I remember that I read this one and the Eloisa James book at the same time. Now, I believe that this book needed a little bit of extra seasoning. I loved it. I genuinely liked it, but it was just not really a 5-star book, that's all. And now we got to another Lisa Kleypas series, and this is the Wallflower series. And oh my god, guys, I freaking adore the friendship in this series. I do not like every single book the same way, but nonetheless, I truly adore the Wallflower series. And the very first book on the list is Secrets of a Summer Night. And I think this is going to go to Flame, not Fire, me personally. It happened one autumn. I really like that one, but that's gonna go into a needed extra seasoning tier. And then we have Scandalous Spring. I also really like that one, but needed a little bit of extra seasoning, again, to me personally. But the one, the one that I adored, and probably this book was my first TPR approved historical romance this year. I think so, at least that's how I remember. That is A Devil in Winter. That is going into the TPR approved tier. This book is freaking fantastic. And it's not just about the characters and a plot. It's just like everything about this book is just freaking amazing. I mean, Evie and Sebastian. Oh, are you kidding? So good. Ooh, the next book, The Perfect Rake. Now, this is very hard for me to rank this book. This book was a very big surprise to me because this was my first book by Anne Gracie, and I was not prepared for this book to be so dark. Because up until this book, I only really read Tessa Dare and Lisa Kleypas, and we all know that these two authors are very humorous and they got kind of like a lighter approach to historical romance. But this book and this author is not like that. She's not sugarcoating anything. She gives you like the real, this is how life was, and there are certain things that you just cannot over romanticize. And as much as I appreciate that, and I don't want to live in a sugar-coated world, I know how seriously women were abused, and still are, but especially back in those days when, you know, like women legally basically didn't exist. Yeah, I know that they were very, very, very badly abused and they couldn't stand up for themselves. Again, like this is not an issue that we're not dealing with in today's world, but again, in a historical setting, it's just like you really understand that while our society has come a long way, because we have come a long way, we still have a long way to go, but we have come a long way. Women back there, sometimes the choices that they had to make just to stay alive. And anyways, I definitely appreciated this book for showing me, like, you know, this side of historical romance and this side of the life that women had back there in the 1800s. But also I was just not prepared, coming from Tessa Dare and coming from Lisa Kleypas, to have like really a darker toned book. And I cannot say that I enjoyed it a lot, but I'm gonna put it, because of everything that this book did for me and it really opened my eyes, I'm just gonna put it like needed extra seasoning. I don't want to put it in flame, not fire, because I think that this book was genuinely like much better than the other 4 books that I have in this tier, but I also cannot put it into a 5-star category, because there were also a lot of things that I just disagreed with in general in that particular book. Oh my god, oh my god, I can already see what the next book is on this list, and Jesus Christ, I think that this is the only historical romance book that I genuinely despise. I cannot stand it. I just cannot stand this book, and that is a Lindsay Sands book, An English Bride in Scotland. This is Recommend to My Enemy. This book had such a good premise, a book taking place in Scotland in a Scottish castle, and our female protagonist, she was supposed to be a nun, but now she just has to get married to a Scottish lord and live in a Scottish castle. The premise was so good, but dear lord, the execution in this book and the characters, I feel, and even reading this book, I felt that this is just a parody, that the author doesn't take herself seriously, and maybe she's just like mocking the genre. I don't know, but I can, oh my god, I don't want to rant. I don't want to rant for 10 minutes in this already long video, but Jesus Christ, this book was so, Jesus, this book was so bad. And the next books are the Spindle Cove books by Tessa Dare. I think I have the 4 full-length books as well as 2 novellas. I love the Spindle Cove series. Now, the very first book, which is A Night to Surrender, I think that this is going to go into the I don't remember tier, because the very first book was actually not good, and I'm so happy that I started with Any Duchess Will Do. Otherwise, probably I wouldn't have loved this series by Tessa Dare very much. The first book was not really my jam. I remember certain things, but like in general, I have the I don't remember feeling when it comes to this book. Now, Weak to Be Wicked, which is the second book in the series, it is an absolute freaking masterpiece. TPR approved, no questions asked. It was so good. It was so good. I adored it. I adored every single page. The next one in the series is Lady by Midnight, and that was, I really loved it. I'm just gonna put it right here next to the Eloisa James book, Best Thing Since Indoor Plumbing. I really love this. Oh my god, I really loved that one. And then the other one that we have here is Do You Want to Start a Scandal? Now, this was something that needed extra seasoning in my personal opinion. I didn't really like this book that much. And now we have also 2 novellas in the Spindle Cove series, and when it comes to Tessa Dare, I think that she's so fantastic. Even with her novellas, she can still have a very nice, like, grounded plot and also really nicely developed characters. So honestly, I even like her novellas. And this one is Beauty and the Blacksmith. This is gonna go into needed extra seasoning, but nonetheless, I really enjoyed this little novella. And then the other one is Lord Dashwood Missed Out. I think that this is also gonna go into needed a little bit of extra seasoning. Again, I think it's very hard when it comes to novellas. And I was thinking, like, you know, not to put them in this video because I cannot really compare a 100 pages long novella to like a 400 pages long novel. Is it truly fair to compare those two? But I wanted to include them, so there you go. Needed a little bit of extra seasoning. And then, oh, the other series from her, and the very first book in the series, Romancing the Duke. Oh my god, this was such a good book. It's not TPR approved, but this is easily going into the best thing since indoor plumbing tier, the 5-star tier, because it was so good. Probably in this particular series, this is my favorite. I love the male character and I love the female character as well. Next one is Say Yes to the Marquis or Marquess. I never know. Is it Marquess or Marquis? I think it's Marquess. I think. Anyways, this book, I want to put this into crickets, actually. I was going to put it into I don't remember, but it's not true. I actually remember the plot and I remember the characters, but this book was not good. I'm sorry, this was just like crickets. It was so boring and I couldn't wait for this book to end. And to say that, to wait for a Tessa Dare book to end, like that's like, I'm sorry, but to say that in a historical romance video, that's probably like sacrilege, okay? And then the next one is When a Scot Ties the Knot. I freaking adore this. Oh my god, this is going here right next to Romancing the Duke, freaking 5-star book. It was so good, guys. So insanely good. Oh my god, I love that. And now we got to Lisa Kleypas's The Ravenel series, and oh my god, I said this in one of my other videos that I believe that this is way better than The Wallflowers. This is her magnum opus. This series, she just simply cannot do better than this, okay? And the very first book, A Cold-Hearted Rake, I really liked it. It's just gonna go into the freaking 5-star tier. I absolutely adored this one. Marrying Winterborn, yes, 5-star tier. I needed a little bit of time to get used to Winterborn because I didn't really click with his character. I was like, this man is just too much, red flag, overbearing. But then I come to love him. Next is Devil in Disguise. Okay, so this is gonna be a flame not fire situation for me. Probably this is the only book in the series that I didn't really like connected with. I don't want to say I didn't like it because that's not true. It's impossible not to like the Ravenels. But I think this one was the one that I just like I said, couldn't really connect with. Devil in Spring. Oh my god, I love this so much. I love Pandora. Freaking 5 stars. Are you kidding me? Oh, also Devil's Daughter. Freaking 5 stars. I loved it. And I also really like the kids in this book. And then, oh my god, the best freaking historical romance book that I ever read in my life. And that is Chasing Cassandra. And that is coming up here into the TPR approved category because, guys, and it's not enough that I'm putting it into the TPR approved category, I'm actually gonna make it into #1. Chasing Cassandra is definitely freaking #1, the best historical romance book that I've ever read in my life. And if you dare to tell me that you don't like Chasing Cassandra and you don't like the character of Tom Severin, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? And we continue with Tessa Dare and her best series, in my opinion, which is Duke Meets Girl. And this is the series that she's still currently writing, right? I cannot wait for the 4th book because the first 2 books in this series, The Duchess Deal, freaking TPR approved. Oh my god, one of her best books, okay? The next one in the series, The Governess Game, going right next to The Duchess Deal. These books are so good. I remember reading The Duchess Deal. I finished it. I read it one more time because I was like, I'm freaking obsessed. Finished it, read it one more time. I read that book 3 times in a row. That's how obsessed I was with Duchess Deal. And then I picked up The Governess Game. I read it 3 times in a row. That's how freaking obsessed I was with that book. So, TPR approved. Oh! I forgot to say, guys, that when it comes to these 5 books that I already put in here, I have reread these books this year, the same year that I read them, okay? That's how insanely good these books are. Now, the Wallflower Wager in this book, it was crickets to me. It was unfortunately one that I didn't really like. Not at all. There were a lot of like characters and specs and should I put it into crickets? Yeah, because I cannot put it into I don't remember because I remember everything. It's also Flame Not Fire. Now it's unfortunately crickets. It's crickets, and it's actually breaking my heart to feel that tier with Tessa Dare books. My Darling Duke, which is my first book by Stacey Reed, and I'm gonna put it into needed extra seasoning. But honestly, I am going to read other books by Stacey. I don't know why I want to say Stacey Reed, because this book was really good. Really good. Next is The Lost Letter by Mimi Matthews, and I'm gonna put it into Flame and Not Fire. I had very high expectations when it comes to this book because it was supposed to be, and it kind of was, like a North and South-esque historical romance, but by the end, the miscommunication trope, I felt personally that it was overused in this book, so by the end it was just a little bit too much. So I'm gonna put it into Flame Not Fire. And then I have 2 Kate Bateman books, and you know what? This author was a very pleasant surprise for me. Now what I'm gonna say is that her books are so insanely spicy. The steam, guys, it's really there. And you know what? I must say that when it comes to the steam in these books, Tessa Dare could never. Okay? That's what I'm gonna say. And I think that that describes everything very well. Now, where to put these books? I'm gonna put this one into Flame Not Fire, and then A Wicked Game is going to go into needed extra seasoning. But this is an author that I am keeping my eyes on, okay? Because this lady surprised me. Next is Duchess Hunt by Lorraine Heath. And I'm just gonna say that this is gonna go into Flame Not Fire. I expected a lot more from this book. I am picking up other books by Lorraine Heath, but this one was just like not exactly my favorite. But then the next book on the list, Love Practically by Nicola Van. Oh my god. Oh my god, guys. Where to put it? I think I'm gonna put it into needed extra seasoning because this book broke my heart. You know what? This is the historical romance book this year that actually made me cry. It made me bawl my eyes out for one of the side characters. That's how insanely emotional this book made me. But I felt more for the side characters than for the actual characters, and also the hero in this book was a little bit annoying, so to me it's gonna go into needed extra seasoning. But nonetheless, I think that this was a fantastic book, and I am reading by Nicola Van or from Nicola Van in the future for sure. And then A Wallflower Christmas. I'm also gonna put that into needed extra seasoning because I adore the wallflowers and I loved spending some time with the ladies during Christmas. It was fun times in general, but I cannot with good conscience, I cannot put it into the 5-star tier because I know that that book is not 5 stars. Next is A Holiday by Gaslight by Mimi Matthews. And oh my god, I really love this book. I really like this book. I'm also gonna put it into needed extra seasoning, but I really like this book. It was such a nice Christmassy historical romance, but this was just a novella. I need to read something by Mimi Matthews that is full length. And then the last book on my list, this makes me so sad, is the historical romance anthology, the Christmassy historical romance anthology, How the Duke Stole Christmas. And I will need to put this into Flame Not Fire because this had 4 short stories and I adored 2 short stories. Of course, I adored the Tessa Dare short story, like that was the first one. I still remember the title, Meet Me in Mayfair. Yeah, I still remember the title. I loved it. But then there were 2 other short stories that I really didn't like. So it's going into Flame Not Fire. And the sun is setting on us, guys. I've been filming for almost 2 hours, so I better get to editing, because this is not gonna be easy to edit this video. Now, if you guys have any historical romance recommendation to me, please let me know in the comments below, because now that I read most of the Lisa Kleypas and Tessa Dare books, and you can see on my little list that I'm also trying to, like, you know, venture out a little bit and read from authors who are maybe not as well known as Tessa Dare and Lisa Kleypas. Please comment down below, let me know, give me recommendations. I need to find other historical romances. I am freaking obsessed with this genre, and this era is not stopping just because in 2 days it's 2025. Do your thing, hit share, like, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already done so, and I'll see you soon with an upcoming video. Bye!